Hello, dear hearts. I woke up today early in the morning and automatically feeling the wish, the urge to share a few words on the great Bodhisattva Mahasattva Manjushri. And it's not something that can be limited to one particular being or entity, because this manifestation is infinite, and throughout many belief systems and cultures and landscapes of this earth, we can definitely say in recorded history there have been so many records that declare encounters with beings such as the great Bodhisattva Mahasattva Manjushri, and known as Manjushri, one of his many names. You can find a lot of information linked to the Enlightened Lineages of ancient India, and just the grandness and the greatness from the times of his presence, and what he has done at the time of Gautama Siddhartha as well, and throughout so many multitudes and infinite ways and expressions, has definitely taught the truth, and that has been handed to us and given to us, luckily still unbroken until this day, thanks to the many great translations we can find, infinite works handed to us from the great Bodhisattva Mahasattva Manjushri. And what I particularly woke up experiencing was, the ability that this great Mahasattva Bodhisattva can cut the root of suffering, and can cut our suffering, can remove it. Now, we tend to ignore and eliminate this truth, which is the nature of reality, which has been taught to us by Gautama Siddhartha. And that is, the nature of reality, of course, is suffering. And, that's one of the many truths that he taught. And this great Bodhisattva Mahasattva Manjushri is capable of cutting the root of that suffering. And not only can he work with all the different karmic tendencies, habits, concepts, constructs, he finds the very core of where they stem from, and is able to completely remove that trail or chain of a way, to then, of course, free us completely. And his pledge and promise was to never depart from cyclic existence until it is completely emptied. So until all beings have been completely liberated, Manjushri promised and swore to to never depart. And in saying this, we have so many wonderful manifestations of many great masters living today who have the lineage of Manjushri, who also are capable of teaching us his truths and being Manjushri for the people. And that's a exceptional fact that we can have this, so many years later, over 2,500 years later. But in saying this, also Manjushri isn't going to be biased to just one religion or belief system. Manjushri, as I said, has been found in various tales across all belief systems and cultures, and you could say beings that had qualities like his, beings that tried to rescue beings. And I can give you some examples about that. But the aim isn't to confuse any of his names with with other names in history. It's just to inspire us to understand that the great Bodhisattva Mahasattva Manjushri isn't going to limit his capacity of helping all mother sentient beings, all infinite beings, and all the infinite directions, just because of links to certain belief systems and religious systems that were created by the people, right? It's so much vaster than that, and it's important to also have a lot of confidence that in any moment, at any time, encounters can take place with Manjushri, because in this particular age, in the Kali Yuga, which is the degenerate time, and that's the time that we're in right now, Manjushri swears to be very active, because he needs to understand in a direct way, engaging with the people, connecting with them, manifesting as a human if needed in different forms and ways, to see where we're at. Because it's in these exact times that beings can get liberated very quickly, because suffering is something that we just cannot pretend isn't there. Degenerate age swells it up. The volatility swells up the misery. It swells up the heartache. It swells up the discomfort. It swells up all our poisons, all our not transformed key emotions, and it makes them very visible. And therefore Manjushri actually cherishes being available right now in this particular age for the very fact that it's where so many beings can be liberated and rescued. His one of his manifestations is known to be the one that has golden speech, such a sweet sound, his voice so golden, so graceful, a speech that can eliminate all discomfort in those who are receiving it through the power of sound, through hearing. In certain melodies, in certain chants, in certain sounds. In fact, in all sounds, you can find Manjushri. But in this exact time, in this exact age, in the Kali Yuga, this is where he takes place, and he's not going to be ever bounding himself or limiting himself to one thing. He's going to do whatever's needed to liberate and help all beings. And this doesn't mean we have to change our belief systems or try and find which is the best one, or because it's got nothing to do with that. We want to get enlightened, so that's all that matters. If we find what works for us to get enlightened, we have to commit to that and work with our minds and commit to that to get enlightened for the benefit of all beings. It's not about trying to get the best possible pathway or the most renowned or revered pathway, because they're just all tricks at the end of the day. The bottom line is we have to work with our mind, and we have to cultivate the qualities that these great Bodhisattva Mahasattvas have obviously shown as the way. So how this is tailored to the age we're in now, 2600 years later, how that's tailored to the current time is incredible, because this is where it gets actually quite unbelievably engaging. Manjushri is going to be very active and very present, and is in these times, and connects with the people very much, as a person. I mean, it's something that you can even hear stories in China, in Watushan Mountain, which is one of his abodes. People write about having encounters with beings that they were certain is a manifestation of Manjushri connecting with the people and emanating. But not only there, this is where the East and West has an unnecessary division, because the scope of such great Bodhisattva Mahasattvas is a worldwide factor. It's universal. It's beyond planet Earth. It's infinite. And I can just tell you now, thousands and thousands of years ago, we're not talking about 2,500 years ago, we're talking about a few thousands of years ago in the time of the great works of Homer. For example, the Odyssey, I'm sure you all heard about it. After the huge war, the Trojan War, which is what the Iliad's based on, which Homer wrote. In the Odyssey, Odyssea, he just wanted to get home. He wanted to get home. Imagine having to wait 20 years to go back home. And, he had such devotion to the great mother goddess, the sword-bearing great mother goddess, in the form of Athena in ancient Greece, who, is the goddess of wisdom, just as is Manjushri. Now, let's not mix and confuse things, but she's an awakened goddess of wisdom, okay? And Manjushri is completely awakened, great Bodhisattva Mahasattva of wisdom. So just to see the parallel, Odysseus wanted so much to go home, and he was so devoted to the goddess Athena and prayed to her with all his heart all the time. I mean, that's all he did, And she appeared to him so many ways on his journey home, in so many different forms, but he never knew it was her. She appeared as a beggar. She appeared as a person selling him fruits. She appeared as animals. She appeared as, a comrade. She appeared as so much, as an old hag. She appeared as so much, with all her love and care for her heart son, Odysseus, her darling, that actually was also very awakened being in myth and in reality, actually, because things like that did happen once upon a time. And there's evidence, because I've been to Odysseus' tomb, so there's no fault in those stories. But I guess all sorts of things have happened to destroy the Enlightened Lineages, but let's not get into that. Luckily in the East, they're very well preserved. So yes, so Athena, the goddess of wisdom, she was there appearing over and over. And that was in those ancient times where, gold would fall from the sky. You'd collect it. It would just fall on you. So imagine, you'd have gold raining on you. And in those days, and, if you want food, I mean, there was no even need to eat so much food, because you'd always feel satisfied. But then there were very big epic events like these holy wars and battles that determined the fates of divine evolution, and such is all that is cyclic. I mean, we can't step away from the constant evolution, especially divine evolution. And that's why I come back to believing in Manjushri, in the fact that he will appear. He will come for those who believe in him. He will appear in whatever form is needed. There was one lady, I remember this story so dearly. She was sitting at the Mahabodhistupa in Bodh Gaya, and very devoted to Manjushri. This is in recent history. This isn't hundreds of years ago. This is in this century. And Manjushri appeared as a woman, came to her as a woman. And she was so attached to the form of a man, with jewels and young and majestic. And this woman came, and it was Manjushri, and came to her and gave her pith instructions. And she shooed her away and was very, very aggressive. And then Manjushri basically said, okay, well, next time I'll manifest as a man for you. And then she understood. She just awoke into the fact that was Manjushri, And anyway, he disappeared then. But the point I'm trying to make is this is as active as you can imagine. I mean, enlightened beings, awakened beings, fully awakened beings, Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, the great ones who are here to liberate beings, who care about the awakening of all beings, they're never going to be subject to one theme, one situation. They're here for all beings, right? And they're here to liberate all beings through the examples they have set. So, just as the great mother goddess Athena in ancient Greece continues to do that. I mean, if you were to go and see her sacred temple, the Parthenon, and see the types of displays that take place there, and when I talk about displays, I'm talking about essence, you'll get the blessing. Such great beings have taken place. Examples of stories similar to what is Manjushri in ancient Egypt. Undoubtedly. Of course in China. Of course. And in India. So, yeah, Manjushri will always come. He will always come for his devotees. And in whatever form, size, shape is needed. And we'll cut the root of suffering. And we'll do it. If you ask for it, we'll do it. We'll do it. It's his pleasure to do it. It's his pleasure to get those chains sawed, cut into all those chains, get us unbound, get us free. And he doesn't like to see suffering. He doesn't want his students to suffer. He doesn't want anyone to suffer. So I just thought I'd share that. And we're great to have living masters who embody these incredible, awakened beings. We're very grateful to have that. But it's important to rejoice and be confident that this is everywhere, and for it to be everywhere, for it to keep taking place everywhere, in whatever form needed, in whatever language needed. That's Manjushri, every language. Actually, when you read about Manjushri, you'll see we're supposed to understand everything, not just our own understanding. We're supposed to understand everything. Whatever gets you liberated. If I can go and talk to a butcher in his language to liberate him, why not? If I can go and talk to beings that are, trapped in torment, that are addicted to very, toxic habits, if I can talk to them in their language to liberate them, why not? Right? If I have to go to the minds of beings that can't have a birth that's auspicious, that can create the conditions to get liberated. If I have to find those minds and show them the way, and speak their language to do so, why not? Right? The most precious thing here is the aspiration, which is Manjushri. He really cares in all beings, and he wants them all to be liberated, So we can always intellectualize and say what beings, and there's no beings, and try and accomplish a supreme state through intellect. That's the biggest error. That's wrong. That's wrong. And you can never fail if you really trust in the example of these great bodhisattvas and in the hierarchy, which is the enlightened beings that will help us if we trust, because they're working through everybody and there's nothing more important than them. And this is the time when they will be very engaging, very interactive, and instant. You just pray to Manjushri and instantly, Manjushri will carry you to the next level in your divine contribution to the whole and in your evolution. And above all, for your awakening. Okay.